do this. As you know, last week we just saw the decapitation of Venezuela. Although I personally object a little bit to the idea of decapitation. I will say decapitation I will accept because we removed the person that considered themselves to be the head of Venezuela. And he was obviously kidnapped in the middle of the night, taken to New York, and he's now being put on trial by a completely different country for crimes that he committed against that other country. Never mind the crimes he committed against his own people, including stealing the election back in July. Maduro, who self-proclaimed president of Venezuela, by the way. He was like, I'm the president of Venezuela. It's like, you can't just say that you're the president, be the president. He did not win the election. Machado did, who then had to go into exile. She's living, I believe, in Spain, trying to get back to actually run the country, who voted her in. She was given the Nobel Peace Prize in the autumn, much to the chagrin of Trump, who now doesn't like her because she got the Peace Prize. And get this, she actually is like, can I just give the Peace Prize to Trump so I can go run my country? And the Nobel Prize Committee like, no swapsies, no take backsies. Nope, you can't. It's yours. You have to have it. She's like, I'd rather have my country. Right now, I have a peace prize, which Trump wants, and Trump has my country, which I want. Couldn't we just do a little quickie swapsy? And the Nobel Prize is like, no, you can't. But I'm saying, girl, just give him the prize. Just give it to him. Just stage an entire, like, he doesn't know any better. Just stage an entire ceremony. Hand him the friggin' trophy or whatever it is. He can put it next to the FIFA one and go back and run Venezuela. Because, so since he decapitated Venezuela, by the way, given I've realized now how much you need to be in order to be the president of Venezuela, I'm considering being the president of Venezuela, because if he won't let Mikado back in, Maduro's over and I might as well, right? I haven't won the election either. I think I'm still allowed a visa to Venezuela. I might as well be the president of Venezuela. Oh no, we'll finish on. Just remind me. Someone do me a quick reminder at like 11:25, and I'll do you my musical. All right, we'll finish on the musical for Venezuela, which Mike already saw, but we'll do it again. Okay, since then, Trump has also captured a couple of oil tankers just around the world in various waters. One was in the Caribbean, one was up near in the Guyuk Strait, as it were, which is the Greenland, Iceland, UK bit of water up there. Now, these oil tankers, I think we all agree that they had Venezuelan oil in them. So he's saying you can't do what you want to do with Venezuelan oil. We control all of it. So they've been taking these tankers. But these tankers were flying Russian flags. So you go, war with Russia. However, they weren't always flying Russian flags. They were flying Guyanese flags. And at one point they were registered in Panama. It's all very confusing. And there is a rule that says that if a ship is stateless, you can then take it. And they argue that by swapping all of the flags around and painting Russian flags on the side of the boat, that you go, you can't just swap country mid-sea. So they're claiming that they were stateless and they've kidnapped these oil tankers and taken them in. And Russia's like, excuse me, but then hasn't really done anything because they know that this is not, dare I say, the hill to die on, the flag hill to die on. So a couple of tankers have been taken. But more worryingly is Trump's rhetoric regarding Greenland. Now, we know that he's kind of had his eye on Greenland, but then when he got distracted by Venezuela, we were like, okay, fine, he's taken something. He's done a little bit of colonization, a little bit of, modern day imperialism. Maybe he'll be distracted. No. He's definitely ramping up his rhetoric about taking Greenland one way or the other. And they're discussing a number of ways. If they need to use military force, they might. He claims that he wants Greenland for security. He's like, oh no, we need to have that because the Russians and the Chinese, and they're quite close. I'm like, have you seen how close they are to Alaska? By the way, mate, like, why aren't you worried about that? Oh, because you own, that's not the real thing. The fact is that Greenland has amazing natural resources, some rare earths, things that we need for building our modern day technology, and they want it. They basically want it. And they're talking about it being a security priority. They're, the fact is that if it was just about security, they can put as many American bases on there as they want. I'm quite sure Greenland would be perfectly happy to host a number of American bases. And they have had American bases there in the past, military installments. That's not the issue. The issue is that they want to own it so that they can do whatever they want with the resources. And they're even talking about, for a mere $6 billion, literally buying out the population. There's only 57,000 citizens in Greenland. So they went, if we offer them all between $10,000 and $100,000 to vote to become American, then for $6 billion, which is cheap at the price, we can just have Greenland. And Denmark, who Greenland is currently a part of the Kingdom of Denmark, have gone, no, thank you. And this is what makes it tricky, is that Greenland itself is autonomous, but it is still technically in the Kingdom of Denmark. And Greenland just wants to be Greenland. They're like, we just want to be us. Can we just be us? Can we just own our own land and be our own country, please? Can we just be Greenland? So the fact that you've got two imperialistic powers fighting over Greenland is a little bit ox, if I'm honest, with Greenland going, could we? But right now, Greenland definitely needs the protection of Denmark. The complicated issue here is the fact that we are all in NATO. And NATO came together after World War II to protect ourselves from Russia, from externals, from people not in NATO. Russia would be the big one, but you could argue China, you could argue Iran, you could argue anybody not in NATO, we will protect. And there's something called Article 5 in NATO. Article 5 is when if any NATO country is attacked, then all of its neighbors will come to its defense. Now, Trump has said, hey, if it wasn't for me, there would be no NATO. I saved NATO. NATO is because of me. NATO has me to thank. Ironically, the only time Article 5 has ever been evoked has been after 9/11, when America was attacked and all of NATO came together and helped in Afghanistan with the war against, well, who knows who that war was against? ISIS, Al-Qaeda, oil. And Denmark and Greenland lost soldiers in that war. And here we are now, 20 years later, 25 years later, and America's threatening to attack one of its NATO allies. This is huge. If this actually happens, if they do actually do any form of aggression against Greenland, it means that the peace that we negotiated at the end of World War II is essentially that world order as we organized at the end of World War II will essentially be over. It will be done. And that is a scary place to be. Who knows what's next if that happens? And I think all we can do is watch this space. I think it was much easier for Trump to be able to go into Venezuela and affect that decapitation than it will be for Trump to be able to just take over Greenland. But there are a lot of voices in his inner cabinet that are shouting very loudly about this, who are 110% on board. But this is where we're starting to see that fracturing of the Republican Party. I mean, people like Senator Tom Tillis, who has basically been the representative to NATO and has gone to all of the NATO meetings and everything else, has gone, this would create a NATO civil war. Forcing every NATO member to choose between loyalty to the U.S. or loyalty to international law, which is a huge decision to make. You wouldn't think that U.S. and international law wouldn't be on the same page, but they're not. As we know, they're not, because no one can argue that what he did in Venezuela was legal. A lot of people therefore turn to the idea of moral. Kemi Badenoch was like, well, it was morally right to do it. But no one has said that he was legally right to do it. Interestingly, after he went into Venezuela, we saw a real shift in some of our far right, like the leader of Hungary, help me out here, the leader of Hungary, Orban, right? Orban. Just having a brain fart here. Hungary, Orban. We'll just cut this bit out of the live feed. What's his name? Mind blank. Yeah, Orban. Yes, God. You see, my brain works in the morning. I'm so pleased. Interestingly, after he decapitated Venezuela, Viktor Orban was very, very quiet for a while because he's like, oh, hang on a second. If you're actually willing to go after far right leaders, we aren't as allied as I thought we were. And he went quiet for like 24 hours. He didn't make a comment for or against. And when he eventually came out and made a comment, he went, I am happy to report that no Hungarians were hurt in the military action that happened in Venezuela. And that's what he said. So we are seeing a fracturing of all of these sort of right-wing networks, these populist networks that all thought that Trump had their back, because clearly Trump is working for Trump.